Hello everyone, Max here with Fiction Rant to bring you another reaction video, this time to Generation Tech's Imperial Star Destroyer versus Enterprise E. Basically, I've seen some of Generation Tech's stuff. They generally have great information and are fun storytellers, but I find myself often disagreeing with their conclusions, so here we are. Also, I have links to my coffee account and Fourth Wall merch store in the description if you're interested in supporting the channel or just want a cool t-shirt or mug. Before we get started, though, I do want to be clear. I'm not here to call anyone stupid or anything like that. I'm here to keep the conversation going on this kind of thing and give my own 2 cents on how certain matchups would go based on the evidence provided and my own knowledge. So with that, we'll get started with Imperial Star Destroyer versus Enterprise E. I will also mention now, the Generation Tech video came out 8 years ago, so the information might be kind of out of date on some stuff, but for the most part, all the data should be there. And this will be part 1.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Generation Tech. Today we're looking at who would win a fight between the Enterprise E from Star Trek and an Imperial Star Destroyer. But first of all, Star Trek is set in our galaxy in the future, and Star Wars is set a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So how do the two ships meet?
I think this is the first time he's actually
plot of this video,
addressed that.
probe from Star Trek 4 shows up again, this time in the year 2379. And this time around, it's making dinosaur noises whilst vaporizing Earth's ocean. The Enterprise E has just finished extensive repairs and upgrades in space dock orbiting Earth after the events of the movie Star Trek Nemesis. It's the closest vessel to Earth and also the most advanced vessel in the region. Picard, having studied Kirk's adventure back to the 20th century...
Okay, so I just want to address the fact that he is talking about a probe wanting to talk to dinosaurs, so the Enterprise is going to encounter a Imperial Star Destroyer. I'm just going to leave that there.
To acquire a pair of humpback whales to communicate with the probe at Starfleet Academy, knows exactly what he has to do. Having encountered and mastered the Borg's time travel technology, the Enterprise E is totally capable of going back in time and capturing a Triceratops. There's just one problem: the Prime Directive. The Enterprise, in theory, isn't allowed to go back in time and encounter civilizations that have yet to develop, messing up their timeline.
Yeah, when's that ever stopped him?
The last official orders the Enterprise received from Starfleet was to engage the probe, something they know is futile. Starfleet Command's communications are currently offline.
You'd think that after all those years they would have come up with a countermeasure for that disruptive effect that the probe had, but oh well.
So Picard asks the crew if anyone objects to him violating orders. Data, who is trying out a new curse word vocabulary upgrade, speaks out.
To hell with our orders.
A great scene.
And with that, the Enterprise starts preparations to initiate a temporal vortex and travel back to the Cretaceous period, a long time ago, 70 million years ago to be exact, in a galaxy far, far away. Darth Vader has been given a special...
So apparently this particular kind of time travel also flings you in a completely different galaxy, but whatever. Matchup has to happen somehow. I usually default to Q myself, but whatever.
Mission by the Emperor. Because of the destruction of the first Death Star, the Emperor wants a wormhole in the unknown regions of the galaxy mapped. This wormhole is believed to be a gateway to another galaxy and may offer an option of hiding future super weapons away from rebel scum. Imperial scout ships under Vader's command have already been exploring the world.
Okay. I'm sorry. This has nothing to do with the matchup. It's just his setup. But the idea that you would have to go into the unknown regions and then take advantage of wormhole to take you to a completely different galaxy just to hide stuff from the rebels. It's like, you're in the unknown regions. They're unknown. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine.
Wormhole for some time. And the next step is to send a ship through and explore the area on the other side, the Sol system in the Milky Way galaxy. Probes sent through report no life on most of the 9 planets in the Sol system. Just one planet is inhabited by medium-sized reptiles and is abundant in natural resources. It's a perfect system to store a superweapon in.
Hey, come on, that long ago there might have been life on Mars. Come on, man.
And a perfect planet for stormtroopers to take a bit of a break on. Because of the perceived lack of danger, Darth Vader takes just one Imperial Star Destroyer through the wormhole to the Milky Way galaxy. Upon arrival, they maintain orbit around Sol 3, now commonly known as Earth, and start preliminary scans. Upon seeing a Triceratops, Vader is reminded of the reek he rode in the execution arena on Geonosis, and of Padme.
Yeah, that'll get him all
Feeling
worked up.
down, Vader returns to his quarters to lament over some home movies he made with a hacked version of Final Cut Pro, an editing software developed by a Sith Lord who hadn't been heard from in a long time and was believed to have fled the galaxy. It's at this time that the Enterprise exits the temporal vortex and is suddenly headed...
Okay, say what you will about Generation Tech, this intro is hilarious. So 100% props to him for putting in that level of effort for just the setup. That is so great.
It's straight for the bow of the Star Destroyer at full impulse. The Enterprise banks sharply and storms past the Star Destroyer at close range. The Star Destroyer, thinking it's under attack, raises shields and fires a...
Well, that's a rather uncharacteristically aggressive move for any Starfleet vessel, much less one captained by Picard.
Couple of warning shots across the stern of the Enterprise while scanning the ship. Picard suddenly starts to worry. He has travelled back in time against the Prime Directive to a time where he thought there were no advanced civilizations in the Sol system, but he is seemingly proved wrong. What is this strange ship? Perhaps that ancient Earth religion, with all its prophets that lived around the turn of the millennium, was right. Humans were descended from aliens, and they've arrived at the very moment they started settling the planet. He knows he has to get out of there, and the Enterprise escapes at warp to a nearby star system. At this time, the Star Destroyer's bridge crew calls Vader. Annoyed by the interruption, Vader kills the ship's captain and takes control himself. He resists the urge to follow the Enterprise, fearing that the unknown ship could be...
So, the idea that he could actually follow the Enterprise... It's established in the sequel trilogy that lightspeed tracking is not really a thing until First Order days. Like, there's kind of a small Easter egg in Rogue One of them potentially developing it then, that kind of stuff. But didn't actually exist as of the time period he's talking about. And yeah, so if they don't have that kind of tech, why would they be able to track warp either? Like the navigational computations that they make for hyperspace, those are computations, not high-intensity scans. They're not scanning the entire route ahead. So, yeah, the idea that they'd be able to follow the Enterprise, regardless of the warp factor they're traveling, not really a thing that they could do.
Leading him into a trap. Instead, he instructs his crew to start mapping hyperspace routes around the system. He tells his gunners to start manning the 60 turbo laser and 60 ion cannons that the Star Destroyer possesses, and also tells TIE fighter pilots to start manning their ships.
General Veers, prepare your men.
Okay. I actually really appreciate that he's calling out the number of weapons available on a Star Destroyer. That's really good. Thank you for the details.
On the Enterprise, long-range sensor scans indicate the Star Destroyer hasn't moved from its position in orbit of Earth. Picard, conscious of his mission to capture a Triceratops, decides to plot a course around the edge of the Sol system and arrive on the far side of Sol 3, hoping not to be detected. The Star Destroyer is one step ahead. They already have several probes in orbit, and when the Enterprise arrives, they are detected by one of those Imperial probes.
That's actually pretty clever. Pretty uncharacteristic of the Imperials to actually bother doing something like that. But yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it totally possible and within the realm of possibility for Imperial tech. Just not probably something that they would do even around the Death Star on Alderaan. The thing that found the Falcon was a single TIE fighter. And then it was able to, get back home and all that. So being found by a patrol of TIE fighters, sure, would totally buy that. Being found by a probe network that got preemptively set up, doubtful.
They of course destroy the probe with phasers, hoping that the signal will not reach the Star Destroyer. But with several probes in orbit, the Imperials already have complete communication coverage of the planet.
Also, scanners still work while at warp, so they know where all the probes are way in advance. But whatever, not really important. We need the matchup to happen at some point.
They regard the destruction of their probe as an act of war, and Vader sets an intercept course. In the few minutes before the Star Destroyer...
Also, it's really funny to me that he's having the Enterprise be the aggressor in all of this, considering how willing and ready the Federation is to always try to negotiate. Meanwhile, the other side is freaking Darth Vader. Yeah, he's the paragon of calm under pressure and not aggressive at all ever, but whatever.
Approaches, Data manages to locate and beam aboard a pair of Triceratops. Picard then gives the order to escape the system at maximum warp, but before he has even finished his sentence,
Okay, the idea that he would leave a potentially hostile alien force in orbit of his home planet millions of years prior to the existence of humans, I mean, maybe... I guess the justification here is we have no idea who these people are. Maybe they're supposed to be here, and if we mess with them, it'll screw up, our own temporal history and potentially doom humanity before it ever exists. Maybe that's the angle he's going for. You know what? Honestly, that's probably what he's going for. We'll go with that.
Enterprise is engulfed with a swarm of Imperial TIE fighters. Although the TIE fighters' weapons do little to penetrate the Enterprise's shields, the ship can no longer engage warp drive safely. Suddenly the Enterprise...
Why not? They can engage warp drive while under fire from warships, not just fighters. I agree that the fighters would do basically no damage, but yeah, there's no reason why they wouldn't be able to go to warp.
Starts getting hit with a more powerful weapon. A barrage of turbo laser fire from the now approaching Star Destroyer hits the engineering section, knocking the warp core offline, shaking the ship violently, and draining the shields.
Okay. So something that all these comparisons don't tend to mention at all is the fact that there's a massive range discrepancy between weapons, turbo lasers, and phasers. About 200 times range discrepancy. The effective range for phasers at which they can target and fire and actually do damage is about one light second, or 300,000 kilometers. Turbo lasers stop doing really anything. I mean, it's matter that you're shooting out, so technically the ultimate range is probably infinite, but they lose energy as they travel, and the maximum effective range that they have is about 1,200 kilometers, according to the stuff that I found, and that's pretty well corroborated in The Last Jedi, where the Dreadnought is unable to damage the Resistance fleet despite being actually a lot closer than 1,200 kilometers. So I understand that he wants, guns to start blazing and all that, but the idea that in a earnest, honest comparison, the Enterprise would basically ever allow the Star Destroyer to get close enough to and use its weapons is pretty ridiculous. Also, the idea that several turbo laser shots while the shields are up would immediately shut down the warp core, that's a big deal. That's like you're dead in the water kind of damage that you've taken. Your warp core isn't just powering the warp drive, it's powering everything else. Yeah, you'll be able to fire a few times with the charge that's already in the phasers, assuming you already charged them. But yeah, he's starting the whole fight with, and then the Imperials win. That's pretty huge.
Picard orders the ship to perform evasive maneuvers at full impulse whilst firing phasers. It is now that the Enterprise E's maneuverability advantage over the Star Destroyer becomes apparent. It's kind of like a speedboat maneuvering around an oil tanker. Star Wars weapons targeting...
So a point in Star Wars favor, I do think that Star Destroyers are more nimble than that, but not a lot. The fact is that we tend to see them being treated as if this is a giant naval conflict during World War II, where you have these giant, ponderous vessels that are broadsiding each other. Meanwhile, the fighters are going around as if they're jet skis. That's probably inaccurate in terms of what they're actually capable of when they're fighting in earnest, but that said, it's pretty evident that Star Trek vessels are a lot more nimble than Star Wars vessels just across the board.
Systems are not the most accurate in the science fiction universe. Many of their turbo laser weapons are still mounted on mechanical turrets or manned by gunners who have to move the barrel of the gun to take a shot. Now with the Enterprise in motion, only about 20% of the Star Destroyer's shots are hitting their target.
Okay, so he did say that they're maneuvering at full impulse. So if we go with that, which actually pulling off maneuvers like that at full impulse would be kind of ridiculous. Full impulse is a quarter of the speed of light. There's no mechanical turret on the planet or in any universe that can track something moving that fast. That is absurdly fast, and yeah, so drop that 20% to 0. If it's actually maneuvering that fast, the turbo lasers aren't hitting anything.
The Enterprise starts picking off TIE fighters with its phasers. Most can be taken out with one shot. Within the space of a few minutes, they have destroyed over 30 TIE fighters.
So by most, he means all of them get destroyed in one shot, because none of the TIE fighters in a Star Destroyer standard complement are shielded. The only ones that are TIE defenders, and that's kind of just a Thrawn thing.
Vader is impressed. He starts thinking about the potential reward the Emperor would give him if he could capture the ship and reverse engineer its targeting and piloting systems for the...
Yeah, that would be... Getting a hold of any Federation tech would be a huge boon for the Empire. I mean, just think about a Star Destroyer that just has a replicator on board. That would be a massive, massive deal. Suddenly you have unlimited food and material as long as you can power the thing. That would be a big deal.
Empire. He orders his crew to use ion cannons to interfere with the Enterprise's electrical systems and start to prepare a tractor beam. The ion cannons interfere with the Enterprise's main computer, and its helm controls keep going momentarily offline.
I would totally buy that if it weren't for the fact that in the middle of the Dominion War, the Breen joined up with the Dominion, and they had a ion weapon that basically caused a massive EMP effect on Federation ships when struck. They then refitted the entire fleet to basically counter that weapon, so it would be a lot less effective. So if this were any other Enterprise, then I would totally buy it. Yeah, that would probably work. Like if this was the Enterprise D, that would probably work fine. But the Enterprise D was long gone by the time the Dominion War came along, which means that, and this is Nemesis era, so the Enterprise E absolutely has everything it needs to be able to resist such attacks.
The ship's movements start lagging.
Again, also, he said that they're maneuvering at full impulse, which means no, they're not hitting it.
Tractor beam hits, holding the ship in place. The Star Destroyer now starts pummeling the Enterprise with a barrage of turbo lasers.
If they could lock on a tractor beam, that would absolutely be a really good way to basically be like, sit still while we shoot you. That said, the Enterprise has a lot of experience countering tractor beams.
Aft shields down to 40%.
But suddenly the lasers stop. Vader decides to try some diplomacy. Or perhaps...
No, he tries diplomacy? This is the first time they're going to hail each other? All right.
Perhaps we better call it intimidation.
Captain, we are being hailed.
On screen.
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
Picard begins to choke, but sensing the use of some form of mystical telepathic energy, Deanna Troi uses her own empathic abilities to block Vader's use of the Force. Picard...
So, I think that Deanna could potentially break Vader's hold on whatever he's currently doing, but a battle of wills between Deanna Troi and any Force user, especially one on Vader's level, that is not a winning battle for her. She would just he would wreck her, basically. Do not try to match Force adjacent powers against Vader or Palpatine. It will not go well for you.
Is freed from the chokehold and recovers. He then cuts off the transmission. Deanna then tells him she senses an enormous amount of hate coming from the being in command of that ship. The crew of the Enterprise...
Useful information as always, Deanna. Thanks so much.
...now knows this is a life or death situation, and they must act.
We're through running from these bastards.
Picard gives the order to begin the counterattack. And that's all we have time for today, guys. You'll have to wait till part 2, which will be tomorrow or the following day, to find out what happens. If you can't wait till then, why not leave your opinion in the comments on which ship you think will win, and why not vote for your favorite ship in our poll? Just click up in the corner of the screen up there. If you're new, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and as always, if you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.
Okay, so you will not be getting part 2 of this until next week, because I do a weekly release schedule instead of daily. Oh, good, the thumbnail there got some spoilers. Is he seriously going to order ramming? Okay, whatever. Yeah, we'll see how he finishes this off. I gotta love how he basically gets the Enterprise down to mostly dead, prior to having it try to retaliate at all, including things like shutting down the tractor beam, which they even can shut down Borg tractor beams. So it's like, okay, Imperial tractor beams are pretty cool. The only time we really get to see them, at least in the main movies, is when the Falcon gets grabbed by the Death Star. But there's no reason. That was, first of all, really long-range tractor beam lock-on, which is pretty impressive. But there's no reason to think that the Enterprise would be incapable of just shutting it down by, whatever MacGuffin they want to do. Either they shoot the emitter with their phasers or with torpedoes, or they send a feedback pulse into the thing. One of the multitude of ways that they've shut down a tractor beam. We'll see how he finishes this next week. Thank you all for watching. Again, I have a coffee link and a Fourth Wall merch store link in the description if you're interested in supporting the channel. I've done several of these reacts to Generation Tech stuff, and he does tell fun stories. Like, his intro to this was honestly hysterical. I loved that. That was so great. The actual matchup itself, I have issues, but yeah, what do you all think? Let me know in the comments. And until next time, live long and prosper, and may the Force be with you.